Welcome to the Basic Bee podcast, a show for the wannabe SEO savvy service providers among us, for the coaches and consultants who dream of becoming known for their storytelling skills, not to mention the solopreneurs who straight up need to master all things social proof to increase sales. After a little reluctantly fully committing to this online world of business, I quickly realized I needed to get people to come to me. I needed to tell them I was here and how I could support them. I dove headfirst into social proof, which led me to SEO, which led me to storytelling. And now it gives me great joy to share what I've learned with other business owners so they skip the hard stuff and ease straight into sales. This podcast gives you expert insights, actionable takeaways, and casual convos with some of the online world's best and brightest experts and strategists. I think that's enough of an intro, so here we go. Hello, and welcome back to the Basic Bee podcast. I've got my friend Breanna Owen with me, and she's actually joining me later in the season to talk about storytelling in your emails. But we had a really cool idea that we did not want to not share with you immediately. So I'll let her share a little bit more about the idea, but it has to do with blogs and emails. I'll leave it there. But it works out really beautifully because Breanna is an email copywriter and strategist. And of course, I do things with blogs. So I'm stoked about it. But one thing I think Breanna does particularly well is she gets you to think about your email sequences differently, and most notably as a way to support your client experience and really hold someone's hand throughout the entire process. So Breanna, hello, my friend.
Hey, thanks for letting me hijack your podcast and kind of flip the script on you.
Of course, I love episodes like this.
Yes, it is my turn to ask you the questions, my friend.
Do with me what you will.
Right? You talk all the time about SEO and case studies and blog posts and how they all go together. And it's very Manny Gen of you. And I love it so much. But I had a thought recently because we Voxer all the time. You and I know this. And I wanted to take this conversation out of Voxer and actually make it available because I think there will be some awesome gems. Mm-hmm. And I selfishly want to be able to go back and listen to it. So like you said, I write a ton of emails. I would be a new blogger, if anything. I am not an established blogger by any means. But recently I had an email that I wrote, and I'm not going to lie, I think it was pretty awesome. And I was like, this is really good. So good. I actually don't want it to stay contained to my email list. I actually want this information to be accessible to people outside of my email list. And because we talk so much, your voice was in my head. And I immediately said to myself, SEO blog post in my Brittany voice. And so that's the question I want to bring to you today. And to be honest, if I'm having this question, my guess is you have a lot of listeners out there who have this question. And to your point earlier, one of the things that I do really well is identify the pieces of information that your ideal client is wondering and wanting to know so that you can get in front of it and serve them really, really well throughout the journey experience with them. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, Brittany, you need to share this with your people too. Those are some questions I have for you today.
Yeah, I'm excited. And this is something I've been having conversations behind the scenes, like you mentioned with you. So with friends, with peers, and then clients as well. This is something that comes up quite a bit. And it came up big time in the last round of the email course, How to Blog with SEO. So I'm really excited.
All right. Well, my first question for you is, what are your thoughts on repurposing emails into a blog post? Is that something you recommend or not?
Yeah, I highly recommend it. And in fact, I have one example where I did this exact thing. And it was, like I said, around the last time that I ran the email course. And I did it because I wanted to show what it could look like. So I had one email. It made a lot of sense to turn it into a blog post. And I did it and shared it with people. And I either got the response of, I've been thinking of doing the same thing, or I didn't know you could do that, or it's so cool to see this being done. So yeah, I think it's a great strategy, especially to be smart with the content that you're creating. And you and I had this part of the conversation where it's like, instead of just sending out that email once or only letting that story, those tips, the strategies live in the email that's going to a select few people, why not go ahead and use it on your website as well as a way to market and get other new people in the door? So yeah, highly recommend it.
Okay, good. That would make the rest of this conversation very awkward.
Super awkward.
So thank you for affirming this idea. As somebody who started with the email and is interested in moving it over into a blog post, what are some things that I would need to consider or to keep in mind when repurposing that content into a blog?
First thing I would recommend is a lot of people are concerned with word count. Make sure that whatever you're publishing as a blog post is at least 500 words long. That sounds intimidating if you don't write words like you and I do all day, every day, but it's really not that long. So just give yourself like a little bit of an outline, start writing, and then you can gauge it from there. You can do the whole word count checker on Google Docs really easily. So that is thing one.
Okay.
Thing two, I would encourage people to think through as I guess like a funnel of should I do this or should I not do this, would be, is there one big central point to all of this? I know for me, some of my emails ping pong in different directions. So if I had an email where there was a key point in that email, but it also went off in various directions sometimes, I would want to edit those pieces out so that it just focuses on that one big point, because that is what enables you to really think through strategically with the keyword research and make that blog post into something that's going to be findable, that's going to go out and do some organic marketing on your behalf on the internet streets.
Mm-hmm.
Other things to consider are, as you're looking through this email, are there natural breaks where you can insert headlines? I know you and I talked through an example recently, and there were some really smart places where there already were pieces of copy that you could easily tweak and make headlines. But also, I think we added in a couple of pieces where there weren't natural headline breaks. So those are some things I would recommend thinking through. Other things would be in your email. Sometimes we have buttons. Sometimes we have hyperlinks. You can do the same thing in a blog post, but I would encourage you to at least have one button that's eye-catching, that's attention grabbing, and that is going to draw that person into like, here, do this thing next.
Okay, that's all good information. If I were to ask, like, the process of turning an email into a blog post, is that different than the things I need to consider? What would be the process of taking this email and turning it into a blog post?
Yeah, there's a little bit of overlap. So there's going to be some of that same stuff of like considering the point, turning things into headlines. But for the sake of walking someone through it and us through it, so you could go back and listen to this, I'll just lay it out.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So you've selected the email. We'll start there. And if you haven't already done this, I would pull all of the copy into a Google Doc. It's the easiest thing to do. Please do that. Make your life simple. From there, identify what that big point is. Are you talking about how a politician can use email marketing? Are you talking about how to turn an email into a blog post? Are you talking about how to do simple keyword research? Whatever that thing is, write it down at the top of the page. Then you can go in and do keyword research. I'll make sure that I link my 6-minute tutorial. It's like super simple, but do keyword research, identify your target or your focus keyword, and then maybe 3 to 5 supportive, synonymous types of keywords. And from that space, you're going to be able to go into your email copy, identify or create your H1 headline. So there's only one H1 for any page, and there needs to be one on every page.
Okay.
And then you're going to use some strategic like bookmarks, like we talked about. What are your H2s? Your H2s support your big point of your H1. Your H3s support your big point of your H2s. So that's kind of the hierarchy that we're aiming for. And then after that point, are you going to add in any images? You would want to think through like the image titles that are keyword rich for that blog post. And then you can go and populate it onto your website. You'll want to make sure that you have an SEO title and meta description and a smart keyword rich URL slug as well. And then once you actually have that blog post published, of course, you want to submit it to Google Search Console.
Okay.
So if those two things don't sound familiar, the SEO titles and meta descriptions, and then submitting it to Google Search Console, I have 2 other short solo episodes that I'll make sure to link as well for that, because those pieces are very critical to make sure that your blog post actually does go out and do that marketing for you and gets found and pulls in the right people.
Okay, perfect. Yes, thank you. I think those are the last 2 pieces that I would also be needing. It's like I'm asking this question for myself or something. So as you know, like in my case, because again, we talked about this, and that is exactly the email. As an email copywriter, especially as one who focuses on the nurture sequences of emails and businesses, I know that that is a phrase that people either think is incredibly boring or don't know WTF I'm talking about. And so I'm trying to share really tangible examples of here's what an email nurture sequence can look like in this industry. And inspired by a real life event, I was like, here's how politicians could use email strategy to win the vote in an upcoming election. Like I wrote a lot. It was close to 2,100 words, which is a bit longer than I typically send in an email. And that is what was part of the reason why I was like, I think this would be better as a long form piece of content. So let's like flip the table a little bit. If I'm starting with my blog post and then I'm like, hey, I want to take this blog post and share it as an email. What do you recommend for the inverse of blog post to email? How would you recommend sharing the blog as an email?
And this was another thing that we talked through, like you said, because you were like, there's a lot of words here and I want to do this. One thing I've done really well, and I shared a couple of examples with you, is I've seen people have these really long blogs and they do share it with their email list. And I've seen it done a couple different ways. You could either pull out in some bullet points, some high level things that you're going to talk through in the blog post and then give them a button. Hey, if you want to read the whole thing, go here. Option 2, which is what I've seen done super well and I really love, is just copying and pasting in like a first chunk of that blog post and then including a button, go here to read the remainder, because it gets people, especially you and I know when emails are written well, especially if there's some kind of story that hooks you in and then you're like engaged and you're reading down the page, you want to know the rest of it. And if we can get them to click a button in your email, that's going to be a really nice engagement statistic there. And then if we can get them over to your website, that's going to also help boost traffic and make that blog post more visible in search results. So it's like a win-win-win-win. Okay, you get it. You know SEO is important, but no, you're not interested in learning another skill. Who has the time? But who are you supposed to trust with the task of getting SEO to work for you? Someone who won't ghost you mid-project or treat you like a dum-dum lollipop. Someone who actually wants to empower you and your team with all things SEO. Hi, yes, it's me, Brittany, and you are the person I created the SEO packet for. You're curious, you want to understand this thing better, but like only a little bit. You don't actually want to do the doing. This way, you get the key SEO stuff super fast, and you get support throughout and beyond the project. No more letting Google gift you the wrong SEO strategy. Time to put the right words in the right places and get found online by the right people. Find all the info you need below.
Yeah, I think I did a hybrid. I'm trying to think back to this week when I sent it out.
I know that life.
I think I did a hybrid where, because I know as a consumer, when I'm on somebody's list and they're sharing a blog post with me through their email, and the first part of it is the blog, and then I click over, I feel bored if I'm reading the exact same thing all over again from the beginning. And at the same time, you sent me an email and now I have to click something to go read the rest of it. That also annoys me. And so I did a little bit of both, I think, if I remember correctly. I did that first section of my content, which was really setting it up what I was about to do, but I didn't do all of it. It was like almost like every other paragraph type of a thing. And then I was like, and then the rest of this blog post talks about these 4 things. When they did, it wasn't going to be like, oh my gosh, I just read all of this word for word. Hopefully there would be a little bit more like interest and surprise.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. I haven't looked at the data.
That's another thing too, is I like letting the email data breathe for a little while, because if I think of my own behavior, I don't check all of my emails immediately once they're sent in. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I want to spend some time reading this email and I'm going to need like 10 or 15 minutes. So I'm going to pause that and leave that in my inbox until this weekend and then go consume it in full. So just a side note on that. But it's an interesting point because I don't feel the same way, especially with the examples that I sent you. I like getting engaged. And now that I know the person, I know that this is her style of sending the emails, and I know that it's going to give me a teaser, and then I go over to the blog. So she's done a good job of training me at this point. And I don't mind clicking over. I don't mind finding my spot in the blog post. And I actually find it helpful that she includes it, just copy paste that first section, because then I know where to go to find where I was. But it's very cool to think of it from a different perspective.
Yeah. Well, same. Like that was also a helpful perspective for me. So I love it.
Look at us.
Yeah. That's not one of the things we think about when we think about our ideal client, because sometimes it changes based off of the day and all of that. And so training your people to know and appreciate and consume a certain way is part of our jobs when we put this content together in whatever way we do so.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, I have one last question for you. You do a lot with SEO. You are the SEO queen. And my zone of genius is very much email marketing. But for as long as I've known you and what we've done, I've always loved what you did. But I was always like, I mean, SEO and email don't really go together. You'll be happy to know through being around you for so long, I have changed my mind. So before we get into my realizations, I would love to know, like, from your perspective, because you also send emails all the dang time. How do SEO and emails come together? How do they work together? What does that look like other than Brittany and Breanna voxering each other all the time?
Which I am not mad about. I love that. This is a cool question because I have some thoughts and I don't know that they immediately spring to everyone's mind, because we do think of like SEOs for your website, emails are for like behind the scenes, client relationship nurturing and stuff like that. SEO seems behind the scenes, but also internet related, and email feels more like behind the scenes, behind the curtain. Not everyone can touch it, see it, whatever.
Yeah.
And the two things that came to mind when you asked that question are that my clients, when they come in, and it could be a student going through the email course, it could be someone working with me for like a done for you SEO packet, whatever the case may be, I always get them to think about three questions. Who do you want to help? How do you want to help them? And what do you want to be known for or as? Those three questions, those three answers are going to help you really narrow down your focus of, again, who you're talking to, how you're helping them, what you are sending your messaging out about, and what you're going to be top of mind for. So for me, it's SEO copywriting and it's case study copywriting, which is amazing because I worked really hard to make those things be synonymous with like Brittany. Oh yeah, she does that. So it helps you be that top of mind person for those topics. And then people can easily find you, refer you, or find you and work with you. That's going to work in your email too. I can count, well, I actually can't count because it's happened so many times, how often I've thought of a topic and then I've been like, oh, Natalia does that. Breanna does that. Ashley does that. Ray does that. And then I can go to my email and just type their names, or I can type the topic. If I can't think of their names, I could say like email marketing, and something like that would very likely come up with your name. Podcast production would come up with Leah's name, things like that. So it helps me to find those people, those emails, those pieces of contact information, or the strategies and the tips that people were sharing. It helps me do that. I can actually search my email.
Yeah. Okay. You're using your inbox as a search engine.
Exactly. So I kind of wove those two things together. But to recap, SEO helps you get focused on what you want to talk about and what you want to be top of mind for and what you want to be considered an expert in or on. And then email, like you just said, email turns into your own personal search engine.
Okay. Well, I love that. And mostly I love it because I had different ideas.
Yes.
And so you put the two of ours together and we have 5 ways SEO and email are actually really, really powerful together.
Well, tell me yours.
So, well, the first one I thought of is if you're trying to grow your email list, you have to get people on your email list to have an email list. And the best way to get people on your email list is by utilizing SEO. You can utilize SEO on the front end with your website, with your content, with a very consistent message, then it is going to draw people into your email list. So I would say that's the first one, that it's like a before, during, and after. And then during, I don't know about you, but I have signed up by their freebie or their downloadable or their quiz or whatever. And now I'm on their email list and I don't really remember who they are or what they do or what made me want to sign up for their email list anyway. And I hadn't even thought about the fact that, well, you actually could use your own inbox as your own personal search engine. But those keywords like your brain is still processing that information too.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you can utilize those keywords in your emails, it's also going to help people like put you together. Oh yeah, that's right. Breanna does all of the stuff with SEO and case study copywriting. Okay, yes, that's right. And matches those together. Oh, Breanna's always talking about email copywriting or mental health and entrepreneurs. Like, yes, that's right. That's what she talks about. So our brains are also cataloging
Mm-hmm.
who the F is that person and why am I getting their email still?
Yeah.
And then the last one I thought of was, again, if you turn that email into a blog post, if you already incorporate the SEO keywords into your email, you won't have to do as much work to make those blog posts optimized for the back end when it lives out on the internet streets, bringing people to you.
That's really smart. Yeah, I hadn't thought about any of those options. This is why we have to be together.
For past me, thinking email and SEO were like friends and acquaintances, but not like roommates.
It turns out they are.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, this was really fun. I think
Yeah.
this is going to be really helpful, not only for you to be able to go back and listen to this, but also for anyone else who's thinking of turning an email into a blog or vice versa, wanting to know how to get their blogs and share it in an effective way with their email list. Also, anyone listening didn't know this, Laura Belgray was on the podcast this week, who is like, I mean, Breanna and Laura are like besties.
I love Laura.
She's amazing. So her podcast episode, we were talking all about how she smartly incorporated SEO, social proof, and storytelling into her Shrimpmica, basically like a web page blog post type of situation. So this is just another kind of aspect of that. We took it and we kind of like worked it in reverse. But anywho, make sure you go listen to that because there's other nuggets that you're going to hear in there. And I just wanted to make sure to shout that out.
I love that you did though, because longtime fan of Laura's, met her in person recently. One of the memories I will flip through on my deathbed, 100%. Like she has turned some of her best emails into a blog post. That's what I was thinking of. That was the inspiration where I was like, wait, this could be possible.
No way.
Was because I have seen Laura Belgray do it. Yes. And she doesn't do it for all of them. She couldn't. She sends an amazing amount of emails, but she does do it for some of them. And I was like, I could do that. I don't have to turn all of my emails into a blog post, but if Laura does it, I can do it.
Yes.
So I love that you brought Laura up because I was like, effing Laura Belgray, yes, I can.
That's funny. Yeah, so now you have to go listen to her episode. You're welcome. I know that there's going to be people who are listening who are like, oh my gosh, we're going to be friends with Breanna too. So where can they do that?
I'm on Instagram at Owen Your Mark. It's Owen. My last name is Owen. So it's a play on words. Owen, Your Mark. The other words are normal. My website URL is the same, owenyourmark.com. So you can come say hi on Instagram or Threads. I've been hanging out on Threads recently and loving it.
It's real fun.
And check out more about me on my website too.
I love it. Yay. Thank you for all that. Yeah, and of course, I'll have all the links everywhere plastered over the internet, so you will not miss Breanna. Don't worry about it.
Thanks.
Thanks for being up for this idea and for taking the mic and taking control of the episode. And
well, thanks for letting me.
Of course. Like I said, it's really fun. All right. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time. That was really something, wasn't it? Let that really sink in and guide you toward being the answer to even more Googled questions. Thanks so much for joining me this episode. You are the reason this show exists and that it keeps growing. You know, thanks to all those follows and reviews. If you know someone who could benefit from what was shared, send it to them. We don't do shy around here. If you thought of clarifying or follow-up questions while listening, you know what to do. Say hi on Instagram. Check the show notes for all the things that were mentioned, and I'll talk to you soon, friend. Hey, it's B, and I have a major announcement. Blogging is not dead, but it might as well be if you don't have a strategy, because when there's no SEO strategy, your blogs don't help you get found online, don't pull in warm leads, and just kind of waste your time. Who wants that? Especially when you're already busy with a family to take care of and a business to run. That's exactly why I created this 10-day email course to show you how to write a blog with SEO. You get one email each day with a task that'll take you 10 to 30 minutes. There's even a live call included where you get to ask me all your questions. This is perfect for you if you've taken a blogging break and are ready to get back in it, or you've never blogged a day in your life, but everyone is telling you to, and you can totally send your team member through the course. The link is in the show notes. Can't wait to see you inside.